right, welcome back to round number 3 of Modern Mondays on a Friday here at Guardian Games in Portland, Oregon. I'm Travis Cooper, hanging out here with resident producer extraordinaire
Ian Lunger.
and we're watching a cool matchup. We got Blue-Red Murktide versus Jeskai Phoenix. So there's going to be a lot of overlap on probably removal suite, but there's going to be some resiliency with the Phoenix deck here that Murktide doesn't have. Both decks are going to probably be playing Darcy's and Bolts.
I'm a little surprised I might have them backwards. I feel like I do not oftentimes see Darcy in the Phoenix, at least in the Aspiring Spike version.
You do currently have the players' names backwards.
Well, that would make sense then.
We're gonna fix that real quick here. All right. The Flooded Strand really threw everything off too. You're like, Jeskai, Flooded Strand. It's actually my fault. Throw the producer under the bus. All right. It's got fetch on instep there for the basic island. Kind of leads me to believe there might be a Blood Moon, because usually you're going to want to have, like, having double red is nice to set up iteration into red card, but this feels like fetch for island, resolve the Blood Moon. To me, that's what I'm thinking, especially with the second island there.
Main deck, are you feeling like main deck Blood Moons are good right now?
No. I mean, they're fine. I don't think they're bad. I think you have the choice of, in the Murktide deck, if you're going to, in the flex, there's like 2 to 3 flex slots, so you can either fill with more Spell Pierces, Archmage's Charms, Furies, Blood Moons, or another utility creature like a 1-of Snapcaster Mage or Brazen Borrower, and it's like some configuration of those cards. Blood Moon is a fine choice. It depends on like what meta you're expecting to play. It's, you know, I think people have been down on Blood Moon because of Boseiju being a card that exists, but you know, the situations where you're not playing against like green-based decks, or they're not always going to have a green to be able to cycle the 1 or 2 of Boseijus. I don't think it's as bad now as people sort of on the internet have made it out to be.
It's definitely going to look good here, I think. Cutting Andre off white is big game in this matchup. Especially because it's likely that this will stick the entirety of the game, as I believe Andre's only way of getting rid of this is Prismatic Ending, and I don't think that this deck plays a basic Plains.
Also not playing Ragavan to get around that. So yeah, my guess is if Jeffrey's playing Blood Moon, there aren't Archmage's Charms in the main deck, and we may be a little bit lower to the ground with some Spell Pierces, or perhaps like even a Fury. You can cast a Phoenix through a Blood Moon. That's a thing you can do.
Doesn't look like Andre's seen any Phoenixes yet,
No.
which is of course, you know, one of the challenges of playing a deck like this is you're so threat light that if you don't find your threats early, you're just doing a lot of wheel spinning.
I do love the Gut Shot. That's almost feels like one of those cards that's kind of like Lava Dart that you don't see a ton of these days, but is super good against the Ragavans and early Darcys.
Agreed. Yeah, I honestly think this is probably the matchup that Andre wants to see, like playing the Phoenix deck.
I guess that does speak to the power of like Blood Moon conditionally just being like, might not be a great card against Jeskai Phoenix like in the mid to late game, but right now is shutting off a fair amount of Andre's deck. We're thinking about a Hardcast Fury is I think what's going on for Jeffrey right now.
Ooh, Blood Moons and Furies, huh?
Yeah, I mean, usually, so the Murktide decks are playing some amount of Archmage's charms, but then when you put Blood Moon in there, I think that's too much of a cost to be able to play both Blood Moon and Charm. Some decks do it, but yeah, I think it's probably on like 2 Blood Moons or in 1 Fury, or maybe 1 Blood Moon, 2 Furies would be my guess, but. And getting rid of a prismatic ending that we're not going to ever really be able to cast. Usually the Murktide deck has the big graveyard.
Not here. Yeah, Andre's done some work, but no Phoenixes to speak of. Yeah, Jeffrey in this just such an awkward spot where, like, just pointing bolt at face, just kind of needing to get something going on. Because, I mean, obviously the Blood Moon has been nice to stunt what Andre's doing, but Jeffrey hasn't been able to put any pressure to kind of leverage the advantage of the Blood Moon so far.
There's a Murktide that's in Jeffrey's hand. I think the bolt is just so that it grows the Murktide, like, out of bolt range.
It's a sad dragon, Travis.
I mean, I would kind of want to get it 1 bigger.
Would you?
I mean, just with Phoenix is attacking. I would want it to be able to profitably block a Phoenix. Oh.
Wait. Well,
I guess that
it
is
does profitably
right.
block.
Yeah, that is a way to get a white mana.
Oh, wow. Yes, and Jeffrey is tapped out, finally. So that's big. But does Andre still have an ending in hand? I believe there is still an ending in hand. I assume that the colors were announced.
I didn't hear them, but yeah, you do have to do that before you draw the card.
Yeah.
So it leads to some really interesting decisions.
Part of the fun.
All right. Mana unlocked. I also like tapping the fetch land while the Blood Moon's still out, so you don't have to fetch to play the rest of your spells. Gaining some life.
This is a lot of the deck that Andre's worked through. I don't even think we've seen a Demi-Lich. I think there's been... Have we seen any threats so far?
No. Yeah, the deck is on, 4 Phoenix, 4 Demi-Lich usually, correct?
That's usually the threat package, yeah. I mean, Andre's sitting on a good number of faithful mendings in the yard, so there's still some churn, but Jeffrey's mana's unlocked. Oh boy.
Wow. I guess Jeffrey really was leaning on that Blood Moon, because there was not a lot. So I was incorrect on assuming Jeffrey was thinking about playing Fury. He was just paying a lot of mana to cast a Murktide.
How did we tap those fetch lands?
Blood Moon was out.
No, not for this recent Murktide. There's got to be 2, and there's a flooded strand in there as well.
Oh yeah. On Jeffrey's side, I'll correct the flooded strand. Hold on a second.
It looks like they found 1, and
Get the other.
okay, here we go.
Yeah, okay.
There we go. Yep. Once you notice one, you notice the other one. You get used to playing with the board state with the Blood Moon, and it's always a shock when someone takes it away from you.
Yeah, it literally was a shock.
I get it.
Yeah, because they're shock lands. Here every Monday.
And occasional Fridays. I mean,
I think that is like the saddest Murktide I've seen when there's not a rest in peace out.
yeah, I mean, it's going to feel really good if you're on Andre's side to be able to bolt and kill a Murktide. That is not a feeling that you get to experience very often. But I think this makes a lot of sense going for the Mending first. You know, really open to hit a Phoenix to start to chain together, be able to have enough spells to chain together the 3 spells.
Oh,
okay.
We get a threat.
In business.
Yeah, buddy. Okay, we're going to hit anything else? Anything else? No.
We're really going for a lot of spells.
Yeah, the thing about the Murktide deck, when you have this many lands, you're sort of just like, you just one expressive iteration. So you can pull me out. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on, deck.
Andre's checking to make sure their deck still, in fact, has Phoenixes and Damoliches in it. Did I drop one?
Also,
where are my threats?
Fetchable lands is probably what we're looking at for this other fetch land as well.
Yeah. Thoughtscour is one of those cards that sometimes the raw power just gets you real excited, and then there are just some number of games where you're like, wait a minute, I know I didn't fetch all my fetchables.
Yeah, when the Murktide deck was, before Consider came out, was playing Thoughtscours, that made mana construction a lot significantly different, just because you do end up, you have to fetch shock a little bit more because you don't want to, you know, mill over 2 out of your 3 shock lands. All right, what is happening now, Andrew? Ooh.
So, why was there not 4 spells? Was it only 3 spells resolved? Is that why the... So it must have been no fetchable to be able to cast the Demilich.
Yeah.
That's brutal.
I mean, Chad's throwing a little bit of shade at Phoenix, but I also think Murktide's looked pretty derpy this game too.
This has been a bit of a like fail from both decks. But you know, that's kind of the beauty of Modern, right? You play these really powerful decks, and then every now and again, both players' decks just decide to function at a quarter speed.
I think Jeffrey's drawn a lightning bolt and a blood moon as the only non-creature spells the entire game.
That's right. It's been an uphill battle.
Mending's the life gain is pretty relevant in these blue-red decks.
Yep. Oh, bolt the Murktide Regent. Do it.
I mean, yeah, I think you do.
Yes.
It has a chance to grow, and the Darcy, I guess, can help filter stuff. Oh, we're getting aggressive now.
Darcy's still a baby.
I'm just a baby.
Okay, should be able to get 1 Demilich back, second main here.
The graveyard is spilling over onto the battlefield.
I know, yeah. Yeah, those Demiliches are trying to exist.
Come
you know, their plane of existence is merging.
That's what they're good at doing.
It's just very thematic.
Yeah, it's like tuck it under.
Yeah. It's still touching the graveyard. It's going to start migrating towards the battlefield, but it's not there yet. Okay, there we go. Can Jeffrey's deck pull out? It's like in a nosedive and it needs to pull up.
And it's just very few cards that you need to do that to. Counterspell is not one of them.
Nah, you need. Oh boy, that's not one of them.
Like you got two. You got to filter 2 times off the top there. I mean, even there's so another Murktide, an expressive iteration. Spin the wheel with consider. Lightning Bolt is fine to get the Demi-Lich this turn. Let's see. We have creature, land, instant.
Oh boy. Okay. Back here again.
You do get a Surveil trigger if you remember that, Jeffrey. I feel like that's a very important Surveil trigger.
Yeah. But I can see, again, the whole just any non-creature thing. Sometimes it just doesn't hit you. You're used to doing it on instants and sorceries. And yeah, that is potentially a costly error on Jeffrey's side for this match. So easy to forget, but very important in this situation.
Do you want to pull up a Demi-Lich on our card treasure there? I feel like that's, not the most common card to see in Modern. All right, we've got blue-white off Metamorphose inside of combat. And gonna bend.
Let's take a look at everybody's favorite ball of text, Demi-Lich.
It's like what Dreadhorde Arcanist strived to be.
Ouch. Demi-Lich is legal in Legacy and Dreadhorde Arcanist is banned, so...
I feel like Demi-Lich is better in Modern than Arcanist is in Modern, but
Agreed.
In Legacy it's a different context. All right, we got a lot of spells. You do have the alchemy version of Demi-Lich up.
That's hilarious.
Thanks, chat. Oh God.
I didn't even realize they could get me with that.
I hate it. I hate it so much.
Oh my God. I'm shocked. I'm shocked and embarrassed.
All right, we're running it back. We got iteration. That's finding another iteration. Oh, we got another Murktide. Yeah, this is pretty good.
Wait, so you're telling me Demi-Lich was like too good in standard, historic, some online format?
It was not good enough.
Oh, they made it better.
Yeah.
Oh.
It was dying to three damage stuff too often. Like, you know what? We're gonna do a Sir Mix-a-Lot here. Make this butt a little bit bigger. All right. Murktides. This is kind of like the what's the monkey grow thing? That it was like an old deck something.
Miracle Grow?
No, yeah, is that it?
That's the name of the deck. Yeah. We just half of our audience doesn't even know we don't even know what deck we're talking about.
They like Pognify?
There we go. All right, we have some people recognize the Boomer Magic references.
There's cobwebs that are up my head right now. It's been a while since I've since the magicking has been talked about a lot. I'll see your flyers with my large flyers. And it looks like we went back down to a 1-1 on this Darcy. So I think we kept another iteration in the hand for Jeffrey. You can't cast that now because you have the Blood Moon.
Oh. Yep. Okay. We got it. Travis was ready. He was ready. We were not going to see cards off the top of the library. He was halfway out the door.
I'm running. I got it.
The rules enforcement. We want everybody to have a good time and play the game correctly. Okay. Oh boy.
That'll do it.
Yeah. Wow.
That was a game one.
Yeah, that was a heck of a game one. I still have nothing like just leaving the old Demi-Lich up for.
Wow. Okay, so let's go to side. If we go to sideboards, if you're Jeffrey, you're on the play. Are you keeping in Blood Moons?
No. Because I think the possibility to cut Andre off white cards is just not good enough, given that Andre may be playing some counter magic. You also, like, let's say Andre actually brings in something like Wear Terror specifically for Blood Moon. You just take it out and can dodge that completely.
Yeah, I feel like your counter spells are going to be better, or your sideboarded counter spells, not literal counter spell, are probably going to be what you want to board in, like Spell Pierces, Flusterstorms if you have them. I think you're going to want to ride like a Ragavan or a Darcy for get in damage in the early turns, maybe stop them from bringing back an Arclight by like counterspelling a Manamorphose, something along those lines.
I will errata my statement a little bit. I mean, I do think that Andre may bring in some amount of Wear Tears if they're expecting a bunch of relics or something from Jeffrey's side. So Wear Tear may still have some targets post board on Jeffrey's side. I mean, you've been playing the Phoenix deck or the Murktide deck more than I have. Are most people playing relics board still? Like, what is the graveyard hate of choice at the moment?
Yeah, that's definitely a flex slot, and it sort of depends on if you're thinking there's a lot of Croxa around, or if there is if you're gonna play like against Living End or something like that. So usually it's a one to two of a card that interacts with the graveyard when you're just playing the straight blue-red.
Are you taking out any number of Darcy's and or Ragavens against the deck that plays main deck Gutshot and Bolts?
I don't think I would if I'm on the play, but it might change my play pattern. I'm probably boarding in if there's sometimes there's more Spell Pierces on the side. Usually there's some in the main deck. There's also some number of Flusterstorms depending on what your counters are. I'm interested in maybe playing a Ragavan on like turn 2 with a Spell Pierce backup instead of playing it maybe on turn 1. It depends what the context of the hand is, but I don't think you board them out of your deck because you have 12 threats in the deck. And this you board out the Ragavans when your opponent's playing like a lot of Midnights or things that are gonna like gum up the board, but you don't board them out because of removal. Because also they're really good when they hit when you're playing against decks that play those cards. Because usually you can play all the cards in their deck. All right, looks like we've got at least a Darcy on turn 1 here for Jeffrey. And it is going to be. And Bobble's looking at a counterspell. It's going to the graveyard. Right, that's not a good. We just saw a gut shot. Oh, feels bad. Well, yeah, I mean, seeing the gut shot on top, I probably just would have sided out all of my Darcy's and Ragavans. You can't beat that card.
Clearly.
I'm more as someone that plays those cards like Darcy and Ragavan. It feels worse to see like a lava dart. Like Gutshot's bad, but lava dart's just depressing. All right. The rare Saren Vision that just drew a card and left both on top in the same order. Well, now that Darcy's down, all you need is a fetch land, and you can play another one, and then you're at Delirium, so...
I mean, this would be a moment where Jeffrey could get in with a dash Ragavan potentially if there's not a second gut shot. But, you know, well, it didn't happen. But I was going to say if Andre had, for example, left a Phoenix on top and used a Consider or something on upkeep, Jeffrey potentially could have countered it and forced Andre into drawing the Phoenix. But that's not the world we live in.
Nope, we live a Consider on the end step. Deck has a lot of, the Murktide deck has a lot of choices in like turn 3, where there's so many things you can do, and it depends how aggressive you want to be. Something hit the mic there. Wait. Oh, that's some stuff in the graveyard there.
Yeah. Wow. I'm very surprised that that resolved. Yeah, if Jeffrey has counter magic, that would have definitely been the moment that I would have gone for the chain.
Yeah, usually hitting the Manamorphose is where you want to disrupt things. Okay, that was a lot of spells.
And we should be able to get a Phoenix and a Demi-Lich this turn.
Feels bad, man.
Ooh, and you know what the best Demi-Lich is? The free Demi-Lich.
The one that says cast a lot of spells on your turn, have your opponent discard a counterspell?
Yeah.
Looks like we have Bolt left over in Jeffrey's hand. I think 2 cards and a land. Bolt, Soul Guide Lantern, and land. Right.
Okay. So Jeffrey is going to be able to clear the yard here with the Soul Guide Lantern, but there's been like a good amount of resources expended, and Andre's still sitting on 4 cards in hand.
I think you just hit the Phoenix with Soul Guide when it comes into play, and then hold up the activation to make Andre commit some amount to bringing another card back from the graveyard before you exile everything.
Jeffrey agrees.
All right, that's pretty good. So Jeffrey's going to be able to control the pace of the game. Andre drew a bunch of cards, set himself up, had some recursion, but it looks like Jeffrey kind of navigated that really well. And hoping that this Murktide can ride out the rest of the game.
It is always a bit of a puzzle when you play your Graveyard Hate like Soul Guide Lantern against a Phoenix deck like this, where they can kind of, okay, you can't cast a Manamorphose with those 2 lands. All right, Travis to the rescue.
I just wanted to run out there and say something once, you know.
He said it. Got its words in. It's been corrected. We're at 2 spells played. Yeah, so this is always the challenge, is Andre can just kind of cast some number of spells and then pay mana. And so it can be a little tough to maximize your Soul Guide Lantern here, but it's also possible that Jeffrey just kind of has this Demi-Lich covered. Because all Jeffrey really needs to do is buy a little bit of time for this Murktide.
I mean, that's 2 attacks, so you're kind of only concerned about Phoenixes right now. Maybe Andre has Path to Exile in the sideboard. Not a lot of decks are doing that anymore. I'm not sure how Andre is going to deal with a resolved Murktide.
Yeah, especially with this Relic on board too. Jeffrey can pop it in response to the Demi-Lich spell that it's targeting on attack, so...
Yeah, that's double insurance there.
Yep.
I feel like Manamorphose is what you... No? Yeah. Yep. It's kind of excited for Murktide to get bigger, but there is no more instants or sorceries in Jeffrey's graveyard.
That's right. Doesn't necessarily need to get bigger here.
No, that is a one turn swing there.
Of note, Andre does not have access to white mana.
Ooh,
which had been an
ouch.
issue because there was a Mending in Hand that could have put Andre up to 8 there, but with the Fetch Shock, Andre's not going to be able to get out of range of the Murktide.
I'm curious if Phoenix plays a card like Teferi in the sideboard.
I don't know. I thought Path was the answer of choice, but
Seems like it would be, you know, just being something to add to instant or sorcery spell count, but...
yes, Relic does exile itself, so if that becomes relevant, we will step in. Interesting. So we're clearing the yard with the Morphos on the stack.
I'm not quite sure about the timing of that. Ooh!
Wow.
Boy, we hit the path. Do we have a
Wow,
counter
wow,
spell?
wow.
No. Wow.
That's huge.
Yeah. Oh, buddy.
So, what was Jeffrey concerned about that prompted? Was there a Phoenix in the yard that we?
No, I don't think so. I too am unsure of why that move was made at that time.
Yeah, probably worth noting that the Relic. Do you want me to go out, or do you want to go out? That Relic is exiled, just in case
Yeah,
another.
you can run out there, man.
Okay.
I don't want to always be the bad cop. I don't want to be any cop. Oh, how the turntables. So it looks like Demi-Lich is going to be able to get Manamorphose as well, if it survives one more turn. Which, looking at Jeffrey's hand, what we can see is fetch land. I think maybe another fetch land, another land, and an unknown. thanks for taking one for the team there.
Of course. Anytime.
That was such a tables turned moment with getting the Path of Murktide and then not having to play around a graveyard hate that's on the board, and you have a Manamorphose.
Yeah, available for the Demilich to flashback. I mean, yeah, it's absolutely brutal.
Well, there's another Soul Guide Lantern. But still, that's like...
Jeffrey might have to pop this Soul Guide Lantern to draw.
Looks like there's an Archmage's Charm in Jeffrey's hand. Which I think with the Soul Guide Lantern in play, I'm interested in Archmage's Charm just to draw 2 for myself right now, but Jeffrey is going to save it to counter something, it looks like.
Oh, Stimulant, it's just going to get out of hand. Yeah, I almost want to attempt to draw before attack step to hope to get the Demilich off the board.
Oh wow, we just let it happen. Interesting. Curious what Jeffrey is playing around at this moment. Gaining some life. Looks like there's a Phoenix in there.
So there's salvaging actually looks somewhat close to Phoenix,
okay.
So it could be a Phoenix or a salvaging. My guess is that it was a salvaging if we didn't toss it in the yard. Although maybe playing around the lantern still. Oh no, you're right. It is a Phoenix. So maybe just thinking hard cast Phoenix could be another way to end the game at this point.
Whoa! Looks like you're gonna. I feel like that's a counter, right? If you save the charm for something.
Well, I don't know how many spells Andre has cast. There's a possibility if Andre's cast enough spells this turn that they could just replay it.
I think Andre had to pay 1 to cast the Demilich.
Okay.
I think I would have countered it. Oh boy. It's hard to, it's easy for us to be, backseat drivers in this situation where we see what's going on. We don't have to deal with the consequences of the choices. So, it's hard to say what's like right or wrong. I think if I was holding on to the counter spell to not draw cards the previous turn, I would have countered the Demilich and held the activation of Soul Guide Lantern. But
it's a very challenging match to navigate for sure. So maybe that was the card instead of an Archmage's Charm?
Yeah, I could totally have just misread the card that was in hand too. It's sort of holding it close to chest here. All right. This is a fun game. I thought it was very swingy. I thought Jeffrey had it, but then we had that Path to Exile was very timely.
Yeah, I don't even think that DRC has Delirium here.
Artifact lands.
This thing dies to a gut shot.
Well,
might be the little Dragon Rage Channeler Chump Blocker that could here in a second. And
all right, we get to go to game 3. Wait, no, that's it.
No,
right.
That's it, buddy. That's a 2-0 for Andre on the Phoenix deck. I mean, I really do think, this is one of the matchups that you're looking to face as the Phoenix deck. Chat can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean you're playing against a deck that has a lot of like counter spells and removal, but the spells that you're casting have flashback, and the creatures that you're playing come back. So if you don't have any kind of graveyard shenanigans in the main deck, you have to kind of go under the Phoenix deck, but then Faithless Mending is gaining life. They've got some chump blockers, so on paper it looks really good. I thought Jeffrey had a huge upper hand in that game one by shutting off white, except for Manamorphose, but just variance is a thing of Magic, and they both were on the wrong side of that for most of game one, which made it kind of interesting to see how that played out. Hard casting a Murktide for exiling a couple lands is not something you normally see.
I mean, the Morphos into Path was really kind of the crux.
Yeah.
The crux there. And I think we can assume at this point that Jeffrey did not have an Archmage's Charm in hand.
Correct, yeah, that was probably the
Otawara
that looked very charming with how it was glistening in the hand, so that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it's kind of... I think it's cool with the Demi-Lich and Phoenix how there's that tension we saw with the relics when how priority passes in a person's main phase, when to use relic or the lantern, and I think Andre was able to sort of force Jeffrey to maybe make some poor decisions.
Definitely putting Jeffrey to the test a number of times. It's a fine line. Well, Travis, we have a segment that we like to do on this show.
Do we want to go to a booth camera, or do we want to?
Okay, Travis.
We have a booth camera set up.
Okay, Travis, we have a segment we like to do on this show, and that segment is called Flavor of the Week.
Text me.
Spice.
And today's flavor of the week.
Oh, a classic.
Is Goblin Grenade.
Okay.
Have at it.
Don't underestimate the aerodynamic qualities of the common goblin.
Commonly underestimated in a lot of ways. Goblins.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Aerodynamic qualities, one of those things that could be commonly underestimated.
This is your choice for flavor.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you feeling very goblin-y, or are you saying we're going to play like Dungeons and Dragons or something sometime soon?
Maybe. I don't know. I just, goblins. They've had like a bit of a resurgence.
It's true. I've seen a fair amount of red-black goblins lately, the combo goblins. I used to play many years ago Aether Vial goblins, where you went up the whole curve, from like 1 to 5, and you're like vialing in Kranko, and Goblin Grenade is one it has like near and dear to my heart. I like the original art on Goblin Grenade. I also I had a controversial. I'm not a big fan of altars, but it's going to be kind of a controversial altar thing where I wanted to get like all of the old Goblin Grenades, because there's 4 different arts to be like, 4 famous bombers from history. Guy Fawkes and etc.
So I would have gone with the original Goblin Grenade art, but it doesn't have the funny flavor text.
No,
it has
it
much
has,
more serious flavor text.
It's the whole like Fallen Empires sort of this world that we've created.
Let's tell a story.
Yeah.
These flavor texts not exactly bangers.
No. I mean, the card is a banger, but because it.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
All right, well,
we did it.
That was that segment.
Was a flavor of the week. Feel free. So we've been on hiatus for a while. We're coming back. It's Friday. It's not Monday. We're gonna be back here on Mondays. At 7 o'clock for Modern Mondays for the foreseeable future. Hopefully, we don't enter another national and global catastrophe. But part of that is we also are getting back on our socials. We're doing the whole YouTube thing. We're doing the Twitch thing. If you have a card that you want explored in Flavor of the Week, you can always, you can always add us on Twitter. We're Portland_paper, and you can. I think we need some more suggestions. We need some community input in Flavor.
Yeah, we desperately need help. We created this segment, and I had like 3 cards that I liked the flavor of, and now it's just this mad, desperate dash to remember what old cards are.
Yeah, we don't, neither Ian nor myself play a lot of Commander. I know when you play Commander, you mostly play it on Cockatrice.
That's right.
And that always has like the flashiest, sort of newest art of the card. It doesn't always. It usually doesn't have.
You
flavor.
can set it to take the oldest art, but
Okay.
there's some finesse involved.
Does it have flavor on the old art of the card, or does it just like list rules text?
I don't even remember.
I don't think it has flavor. I don't ever remember reading flavor on Cockatrice. So I feel like we need some folks that like Modern but also play a lot of Commander probably to add us on Twitter for some cool flavor, because I feel like that's something Commander players have in their back pocket. Like, I'm sure people make Commander decks that are just like full of good flavor.
We honestly don't. It doesn't have to be funny. Like, it can be serious. I mean, if it's serious, it presents, like, the more poetic it is, the more of a challenge it is for Travis and I to do it justice, which, is up to you whether you want to hear us read it, because that's part of the segment.
I mean, I think we're totally down for doing voices as well. I feel like what you presented me with just like a sentence. I don't know. I wasn't reading it in a character's voice.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. Well, we got 3 minutes left. I think we're gonna get a little stretch on here and find out who's playing for all the marbles.